So I've got Gordon Desmond here, and he's a student from Australia here at the Pathfinder School. He's been here for the last 4 days in the basic class. And this is the basic survival class at the Pathfinder School. And Gordon has been to lots of schools, and I want him to tell you what schools he's been to.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Yep, Gordon Desmond from Australia. I've done a couple of survival courses in Australia, Bob Cooper Outback Survival, and Richard Hungerford, Bush Law Australia, as well as doing a couple of courses in the UK with Ray Mears and Lofty Wiseman, a few courses. My work enables me to get to these places and obviously do some of the things, I love doing this type of stuff. Bushcraft's very different from survival, even though they crisscross. And as I said, but they're very different. What I like about the Pathfinder School, which is very different than the other survival schools, and they're all great schools, there's no doubt about that, I enjoy them all and the great stuff, is the way in the Pathfinder School everything is pressure tested right from the word go, rather than learning skills, which is all great, and then having a test at the end. In the Pathfinder School, the courses or the deliverables and the subjects are pressure tested under a timed focus for every deliverable. And I think as far as a learning curve, I think it's a lot steeper learning curve, really, the way that works. And it's and I've seen it from other students, and you just put on the spot. And of course that's what happens in the real thing, where the other things are great, it's just a different methodology of teaching.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
So this is your second time back to Pathfinder School. You've been here for another class, you were here for a primitives class. And like you're talking about the learning curve, I mean, you get guys to come in here on day one, look like they've never started a fire before in their life. I mean, you put them in a 5-minute fire exercise, and one person like you that's been here before or been to other training and things like that, you passed that exercise, and everyone else pretty much failed that exercise. There might have been one other guy out of 22 that passed it. But by the end of the class on day 4, or the day 3 at the night exercise for the final exam, we had 100% pass rate on a 15-minute drill to make fire, shelter, and boil 32 ounces of water after negotiating a nav course that was over a mile at night. So I think that speaks to the learning abilities of people, if they really want to do it. But it also speaks to the learning curve that you were talking about, as far as, you're going to be under the gun from the word go. Everything's going to be time tested. Everything's going to put you under pressure. And we always want to instill that pressure on you so that you feel like you're being stressed out, like you would be in a survival scenario where things aren't going exactly the way you want them to. So you've got to be under that pressure to understand that. And I think you're all the better for that. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it's I love the pressure. I think it's great, and as you said, with the students, pressure tested from the start. I think everyone's gets flustered, and because it's a challenge to yourself. No one wants to mess up, and because there might be a few failures, but I think you learn from your failures faster than what you learn from getting things right, and you're more determined. And as I said, that learning curve was really steep, and everyone was, I think, at the end of it, even though in that sense it's got the, let's say, the pressure of more and more advanced course in the basic, because of that pressure on the deliverables and the time deliverables. I think that's what sort of really makes it, because a lot of the other schools, all great schools, and I love them. It's just a different way of they teach a lot of the same things, but just the way that it's done. Love the 10 C's, and that's great. It really works well, and everything hones down to that. And I think that it's actually more like the army experience. Always it's got that military aspect, even though it's not military, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. I understand what you mean. We try to keep everything drawn down to its simplest form. And I think that's what's important for people to learn quickly. You have to take away all the fluff and only give them what's important, and then concentrate on that. And one of the things that we do different here, we're not going to give you a cotton ball and a Vaseline. We're not going to give you Mini Inferno the first time we tell you to start a fire. I want you to understand what it's like to have to start a fire with what's around you and take that material from the landscape. Yeah, we'll give you a ferrocerium rod, but as you see, not everybody understands how to use a ferrocerium rod. There's certain, there's aspects to it about your knife, about the rod, about the person that's operating it, that make it more doable or less doable depending on your experience level. And by how many fires you figure you started this weekend?
In excess of 15, I'd say. Probably more like up around the 15 to 18.
We try to
I'd
do
say.
somewhere between 15 and 20, depending on time allotments. But every day it's fire, fire, fire. Even if we're doing shelter, even if we're doing water, everything molds into the other, and we reinforce those skills daily. And I think that helps people learn too, because the more you do it, the more repetition you get, the more muscle memory you create in what you're doing. But I really appreciate you coming over here from Oss again, and I know you're wanting to come back for another class. So
Definitely, most definitely.
well, it's too bad you can't be here in 2 weeks for the Hudson Bay Chaplain class.
Well,
But
if I could stay, I would.
I know you would,
Oh,
brother.
it's just, yeah,
I know
which it
you
wasn't
would.
so far.
Yeah, I understand, brother.